Hi everyone, as I mentioned before, I have made a list of 500 advanced words for IELTS. Now in this video, I'm going to talk about next 50 words. Let's get started and learn them together. Extinguish. Extinguish means to put out a fire. For example, firefighters managed to extinguish the blaze around 5 p.m. Its synonyms are put out and quench. Dwelling. Dwelling means a house, flat, or something else where people live. For example, many residents of the settlement strive to make their dwellings habitable. Its synonyms are habitation, house, and residence. Fasten. Fasten means to make something firmly closed or fixed. For example, she pushed her hair back and fastened it with a clip at the base of her neck, breathing deeply. Its synonyms are tie, attach, and lock. Annihilate. Annihilate means to destroy something completely. For example, all that person wanted to do was destroy, to annihilate everything around her. Its synonyms are exterminate and eliminate. Conceal. Conceal means to hide. For example, everybody knows everybody, so it is hard to conceal something like a kidnapping. Its synonyms are hide, cover, and secrete. Demise. Demise means the termination of existence or operation. For example, the services sector is all some regions in the UK have left after the demise of the manufacturing industry. Its synonyms are death and loss. Deplete. Deplete means to reduce greatly in number or quantity. For example, soils that remain saturated deplete soil oxygen and reduce or prevent root growth, resulting in overall plant decline. Its synonyms are consume, expand, and exhaust. Typify. Typify means to be an excellent or characteristic example of something. For example, these examples typify the difficulties that psychologists may experience with peer review and commentary. Its synonyms are exemplify, represent, and symbolize. Outlaw. Outlaw means someone who has committed a crime. For example, rather he is considered an international outlaw and may be dealt with as such. Its synonyms are gangster, desperado, and criminal. Husbandry. Husbandry means the farming business. For example, now, more than 4 years after the launch, their careful husbandry has developed a business. Its synonyms are farming, agriculture. Halt. Halt means a suspension of movement or activity. For example, drainage activities ground almost to a halt as a result of a lack of funds. Its synonyms are stop, cessation, and standstill. Sluggish. Sluggish means unenergetic. For example, it's easy to feel sluggish at the beginning of the year, especially after a fortnight of festive celebration and scoff. Its synonyms are stagnant, lethargic, and lazy. Pervasive. Pervasive means tending to or having the power to spread everywhere. For example, knowledge networks have become pervasive because they can be simple to implement. Its synonyms are prevalent, widespread, and permeate. Gregarious. Gregarious means seeking or enjoying the company of others. For example, it is a gregarious spreading herb that quickly covers the ground and rocks. Its synonyms are companionable and sociable. Bias. Bias means an inclination to favor or disfavor one side against. For example, his work showed a discernible bias towards philosophy. Its synonyms are inclination, prejudice, and leaning. Exempt. Exempt means free from some obligation. For example, bookstores, corner stores, and TV shops are also exempt from the bylaw. Its synonyms are excused, free, and immune. Negligible. Negligible means small or unimportant enough to ignore. For example, instead, it allocates a negligible amount for the maintenance and upkeep of the zoos. Its synonyms are trivial, insignificant, and trifling. Zealous. Zealous means having or showing zeal. For example, he was always zealous in good works, always regular at worship, and a key member of the church. Its synonyms are eager, ardent, and fervent. Sporadically. Sporadically means at irregular intervals. For example, tight circles of light begin to appear sporadically. Its synonyms are occasionally and intermittently. Aptly. Aptly means in an apt or suitable manner. For example, the road has been aptly called the metropolitan corridor of the American landscape. Its synonyms are fitly, appropriately, and properly. Respiratory. Respiratory means relating to breathing or the lungs. For example, cigarette smoke is a short-term respiratory irritant that should be avoided altogether by people with asthma. Synonyms: breathing and respiring. Noxious. Noxious means causing or capable of causing harm. For example, visitors have to contend with toxic gases, noxious fumes, and showers of hot ash. Its synonyms are harmful, noxious, and toxic. Dexterous. Dexterous means skillful in physical movements, especially of the hands. For example, thanks again to the remarkable, amiable, clever, dexterous, and strikingly handsome Lazarus for all the help he gave me on this chapter. Its synonyms are deft, artful, and shrewd. Evoke. Evoke means to cause or to produce a response or reaction. For example, clearly, these kinds of images of the miserable at play will evoke horror in the minds of every sane person. Its synonyms are invoke, raise, and make. Precipitous. Precipitous means dangerously high or steep. For example, sugar feeds the brain, and fluctuations in the level of this fuel can lead to precipitous changes in a child's mood. Its synonyms are abrupt, steep, and sheer. Magnify. Magnify means much greater or more impressive than usual. For example, most models offer a digital zoom which lets you magnify an image after it has been snapped. Its synonyms are amplify, enlarge, and augment. Disdain. Disdain means a lack of respect accompanied by a feeling of intense dislike. For example, despite my general disdain for the community at large, community service would be somewhat pointless without it. Its synonyms are contempt, scorn. Robust. Robust means strong and healthy. For example, she is a pleasantly robust woman of modest means, patriotic in convictions, guileless in manner. Its synonyms are vigorous, hardy, and sturdy. Conspicuous. Conspicuous means visibly noticeable or obvious. For example, if this conspicuous consumption made people more contented, I would be less inclined to question it. Its synonyms are prominent, outstanding, and vivid. Menace. Menace means to show an intention to damage or harm someone. For example, everyone is friendly, relaxed, and enjoying the warm evening without a hint of menace or bad behavior. Its synonyms are threaten, intimidate, and frighten. Preponderance. Preponderance means the state of being greater in amount or number. For example, the preponderance of the available evidence indicates there was no attack. Its synonyms are supremacy, superiority, and predominance. Solely. Solely means only or not involving anyone or anything else. For example, it is simply not true that smoking is solely responsible for the current cancer epidemic. Its synonyms are alone, solitarily, and exclusively. Aversion. Aversion means a strong dislike. For example, not surprisingly, the aversion may be stronger when the person in question is a stranger. Its synonyms are hatred, animosity, and hostility. Outrage. Outrage means an extremely strong reaction of anger and shock. For example, it was the first time I had ever detected a trace of anger or outrage in her voice. Its synonyms are insult and humiliation. Overlap. Overlap means to partly cover another object. For example, one reason that there is much less emphasis on whether a person is considered to be right or left-brained is that there is such an overlap in these areas. Its synonyms are overlie and overlay. Odor. Odor means a distinctive smell, especially an unpleasant one. For example, occupations also had noticed a strong unpleasant odor resembling sewage. Its synonyms are smell, scent, and sting. Seize. Seize means to take or grab suddenly, eagerly, or forcibly. For example, to succeed, the scheme had to seize shoppers' imaginations and change their habits. Its synonyms are grasp, grab, and capture. Indispensable. Indispensable means absolutely necessary. For example, necessary in a democratic society doesn't mean indispensable, nor does it mean desirable. Its synonyms are requisite, vital, and crucial. Legacy. Legacy means an amount of property or money left in a will. For example, partnerships will bring you wealth and success, and you may inherit a legacy. Its synonyms are heritage, bequest, and inheritance. Conjecture. Conjecture means to form an opinion about something even without much information on it. For example, from this, we conjecture global stability in certain cases. Its synonyms are guess, suppose, and estimate. Extol. Extol means to praise something very much. For example, the manager tends to extol his players, but last night the praise was reserved. Its synonyms are praise, celebrate, and glorify. Skeptical. Skeptical means having doubts or reservations. For example, he responded to a skeptical question by encouraging us to view his outline as a map. Its synonyms are doubtful, dubious, and suspicious. Recession. Recession means a period of reduced trade and business activity. For example, the country was gripped by recession and interest rates were soaring. Its synonyms are depression, downturn, and slump. Tranquil. Tranquil means serenely quiet or peaceful. For example, it has many areas of stunning beauty and places that are truly tranquil and serene. Its synonyms are serene, calm, and placid. Denounce. Denounce means to inform against or to accuse someone publicly. For example, the writers say they are tortured and forced to publicly denounce their work. Its synonyms are blame, condemn, and criticize. Illegible. Illegible means difficult or impossible to read. For example, there were also some illegible words scrawled in black marker across one work. Its synonyms are unreadable and indecipherable. Concede. Concede means to acknowledge as true, just, or proper. For example, the organizers of the demonstration concede that they hadn't sought permission for it, and its synonyms are admit and accept. Segregate. Segregate means to set apart or to isolate. For example, the Alabama bus system was segregated by race, with the first 10 seats reserved exclusively for white people. Its synonyms are divide, separate, and discriminate. Adjacent. Adjacent means lying beside or next to something. For example, she turned and saw that there were doors that were adjacent to the room next door. Its synonyms are adjoining, bordering, and touching. Retain. Retain means to keep or continue to have something. For example, many seniors continue to retain one valuable asset, their home. Its synonyms are hold, preserve, and save. It's the second part of the vocabulary. By the way, I have attached PDF files of first and second part of this vocabulary. You can click the link and download the material. Whenever you do reading, writing, and speaking practice, you can use these words. Good luck to everyone. Thank you for watching. See you!